Hey, night listener. Tonight, we enter the shadows. Streetlights flicker like they're hiding secrets. Rain taps at your windshield in code. The city smells of damp brick, spilled coffee, and old lies no one ever really cleaned up. Your shoes click on wet pavement as you step out of your car. Somewhere nearby, a neon sign buzzes like a warning. You're here because the story won't leave you alone. And if this story found you, maybe it's because you've been followed too. So, before we vanish into this mystery, like the video and subscribe only if you can handle the truth buried beneath the lies. Let me know in the comments, where are you listening from? And are you drawn more to the truth, the thrill, or the justice? Now lock your doors, take a deep breath, and follow me into the dark. The man with no shadow walks into the station like he owns it. Pressed suit, blue tie, shoes that don't creak, a face made for sympathy, not suspicion. He's not smiling, that would be too much. He's the kind of careful that comes from knowing the rules and how to bend them until they hum. You sit across from him, detective, observer, doubter. You're not supposed to care, not supposed to know. But something in your gut tells you this man's story isn't true. Still, his alibi is airtight. He says he was at the Wild Lantern Cafe from 9:13 p.m. to 11:57 p.m. He has the receipt, timestamp, printed, clean. He has witnesses. The barista remembers him. There's a photo too, one he offers up before you ask. It shows him smiling beside a mural faded sunflowers painted on a peeling wall. A fork mid-air, caught in the act of lifting cake. His watch gleams on his wrist. His tie matches the timestamp. You glance at it, and you miss it. That night, you file the paperwork like you've done 100 times. You tell yourself you're being paranoid, that gut feelings aren't admissible in court, that just because a man is too perfect doesn't make him guilty. But the next morning, something sticks. Not a detail, a silence. The photo didn't feel right. It was too staged, too present. You try to shake it, but the thought keeps crawling back. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Later that day, you revisit the file, not because you're allowed to, because you need to. You look again at the photo, the smile, the posture, the background, and then something twitches behind your eyes. A reflection, glass, right behind him. You zoom in, but it blurs too quickly. You rewind the tape of the surveillance cam from the cafe instead. There he is, entering at 9:15, ordering coffee, sitting alone for the first hour. Nothing strange. Then 10:32 p.m. He stands, walks to the mural. You pause the frame. He adjusts the camera mounted on the wall, the one meant to capture patrons for social media posts. He turns it, angles it down. Nearly missed the next thing. He checks his watch. What if the time on the photo wasn't real? What if the timestamp was accurate, but the photo was taken earlier? What if he staged it? You look closer at the fork in his hand. He's holding it above a slice of cake, but the cake is whole in the surveillance video. Uneaten, uncut. The photograph was taken before he touched his food, before time passed naturally, before he had to prove he stayed. You feel the air shift. Everything inside you sharpens like a drawn knife. You whisper, everyone lies, especially the quiet ones, because he never said more than he had to. He let the evidence speak, and now it screams. You leave the station that night unsettled. Rain again. Your car window fogs as you sit in the driver's seat and breathe. You should have caught it sooner. You didn't. And now, someone's dead, because a man with no shadow gave you a photograph, and you believed it. It was never about the truth, it was about control. The glass in your hand sweats, whisper, but you haven't taken a sip. You're sitting at the edge of your kitchen table, the photograph lying in front of you like it's taunting you, mocking your oversight. A man smiled, lifted a fork, and bought himself the illusion of innocence with a single click, and you missed it. There's something about the photo that bothers you now even more than the reflection you couldn't quite make out. Something in the texture, the light, the placement of objects. You hold it under the lamp and tilt it. catching the surface gloss. That's when you see it, a faint smudge on the glass of the photo frame, like a fingerprint rubbed too quickly, as if someone was nervous. Cleaning, covering. But why clean a photo frame unless you were trying to hide something in it? You return to the cafe just before closing. The barista is still there. Late 20s, tattooed forearms, eyes like they haven't slept right in years. You ask if he remembers the man. He nods too quickly. Scripted. Yeah. The guy with the tie. Regular. Sat near the mural. You hold the photo up. He squints at it. That's my camera. I remember setting it to auto post, but something in his face tightens. You ask the question like it's casual. What time was this taken? He hesitates. 10:30. Maybe, if the timestamp says so. But you didn't show him the timestamp. You just showed him the photo. And now you know. He's part of the lie. Outside, your phone buzzes. Unknown number. You answer without thinking. Silence for 4 seconds. Then a click, and one word smudge. The line goes dead. Your blood turns to ice. You head to your car, scanning the street. One figure walking 2 blocks down. Too slow, too steady. You don't follow. You just note the way their coat flutters in the breeze and how they stop in front of the cafe right where you stood minutes ago. They turn and vanish down an alley. You check the photo again, now under your dome light. And then you see it, what the smudge was hiding. A bottle on the table, but not his table. A table behind him, a wine bottle, and a hand holding the neck of the bottle. Slender, feminine, wearing red nail polish. But here's the thing. The victim was found with nails bitten to the skin. You check the security footage again once you're back at the station, but it's been edited, overwritten with new segments that blur where the hand would have been visible. Tampering. You're sure of it. You start to log the evidence formally, but then you stop, because you realize whoever altered the footage had access. Internal access. Which means the station isn't safe either. You go home, but you don't sleep. You print the photograph again, higher resolution, zoom in, quadrant by quadrant. And there it is, right in the blurred corner of the cafe mirror. A figure, a woman, facing away. Red shoes, heel lifted slightly, caught mid-step. You don't know her face, but her posture. It's familiar in a way that makes your stomach twist, because it feels rehearsed, like someone trying to leave a memory behind for you, a breadcrumb. You call the crime scene analyst who catalogued the evidence from the victim's apartment. You ask about red shoes. She says there were none found at the scene, but the victim's closet was oddly empty, like someone had taken a few personal items, nothing valuable, just familiar things, sentimental things, trophies or staging. You return to the thought you knew, but pretended you didn't, because the woman in the red shoes, you've seen her before, not in a case file, not in a dream, but at the courthouse, 2 months ago, second row of the gallery, watching the proceedings. No one else noticed her, but you did. She left before the verdict, slipped out like a rumor. No name, no testimony, just presence. Like she wanted you to see her, like she was waiting for this moment, like she knew the photo would fail, and you would have to find her. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth, it was about control. The woman in red shoes haunts you, not like a ghost, but like a memory you're sure you should have had. She wasn't just in the photo. She was planted there, an intentional accident. A mistake just noticeable enough to itch at the back of your thoughts. And now, she's everywhere. You start seeing red shoes on subway platforms, at crosswalks, in the reflection of train windows. You know it isn't her, but the feeling stays. She's the detail you weren't supposed to catch. You pull every courthouse surveillance log from the trial 2 months ago. No one matching her description is listed. No ID scans, no entrance record, no testimony. But then you do something the others wouldn't. You check the public gallery seating map. You scan the footage, not the suspect, not the judge, but the crowd. There she is. Row 2, seat 6. looking directly at the camera for exactly 2 seconds before glancing away. It's deliberate. You feel it in your bones. She wanted to be seen by you. Later that night, your inbox pings. No subject line, no sender, just an attached image of security cam still from the courthouse. A close-up of her face. She's smiling, but the timestamp is wrong 24 minutes before you ever arrived that day. How did someone know you'd look for her? How did they know you'd need her face now? You lean back, throat dry. What if you've been the suspect all along?
You call in a tech friend from your academy days. You don't trust your department. Too many cracks, too many unexplained edits, too many people claiming the file must have been corrupted. He traces the email, finds nothing. Just an IP that reroutes through 3 ghost nodes and bounces off a data center in Iceland. But the metadata, that's the real surprise. The image file was created on your laptop 6 days ago. You don't remember taking it. You don't remember ever seeing her that clearly before. But the image doesn't lie, unless it was planted. You check your file history. Hidden partition, encrypted. Inside dozens of photos, victim crime scene evidence, trial transcripts, and one folder labeled Sundown Mirror. You open it. There's a photo from the cafe, the original, unedited, and the woman in red shoes. She's sitting at the table with him, laughing, her hand on his, the bottle of wine between them. It's not a third-party photo. It's posed. And the man with no shadow, he's not smiling at her. He's smiling at the camera, at you. The next day, you bring the photo to the barista. He stares at it for a long time. Then I never saw her before, but she feels familiar. You press harder than you should. Familiar how? He rubs the back of his neck, like someone I've dreamt about, or like someone who used to work here before I did. You ever get that sense that you're walking in someone else's footsteps? You don't answer, because that's exactly what it feels like. That night, you return to the crime scene, just to look, just to feel. The apartment building is sealed, but the back fire escape is rusted open. You climb, floor 3, unit 308. The door's still boarded, but someone's pulled a nail loose. Inside, the air is stale. You step across the floor and into the bedroom where the victim was found. Nothing remains, just walls, empty and echoing. But in the corner, a photo frame, cracked, shoved into the vent. You pull it out with gloved fingers, wipe the glass. It's another photo of the woman in red shoes, but this time, she's alone, facing a mirror, smiling faintly, and in the reflection, you standing behind her, expression unreadable, eyes locked on hers. You don't remember being there, but the camera doesn't lie, or maybe it does. You whisper it out loud. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. The missing photograph wasn't missing. It was hidden, and you're the one who hid it. That's the only conclusion you can reach as you stare at the cracked frame in your hand. The reflection of yourself, calm, unshaken, there mocking every belief you had about your innocence in this story. But you didn't remember taking it. You didn't remember ever seeing her alone in that room, much less standing behind her, caught in a mirror that was meant to see both ways. So what else have you forgotten? You bring the photograph home, careful not to attract attention. You scan it, enhance the background. On the edge of the mirror, barely noticeable, is a sticker, a code, a museum catalog number. She wasn't in a cafe when this was taken. She was in a gallery, an old one. And if the catalog number is real, the exhibit was pulled 3 years ago, which makes the photo older than the murder. older than the man's supposed connection to her. So why is the time stamp on the back from 6 weeks ago? You flip the frame over. The backing is new, but the staples don't match. This wasn't a reprint. It was repackaged. Someone wanted the past to look recent and the recent to look like the past. A mirrored timeline designed to make you question reality. And it's working. You sit in the dark with the photo propped up on your kitchen counter. The woman's face is soft in the low light. Her eyes never meet yours. Only the reflection does. You try to remember being there, but all that comes is a smell. Amber perfume and old books. Familiar, unplaceable. A feeling like deja vu and dread had a child and left it in your ribcage. Then a sound. Click. Behind you. You turn. Slowly. No one there. You check the door. Locked. Windows closed. But on your table, where the photo sat a moment ago, there's now something else. A small, square envelope. Black wax seal. Your initials, etched in red. Inside a single contact sheet from a 35mm roll of film. 12 images. Slightly out of focus. Every one of them shows her. Always from behind. Always in motion. Walking away. In one. She holds a man's hand. The man's face is turned away. But the watch on his wrist, it's yours. You sit down hard. The walls feel closer now. The air heavier. Your mind racing. What if the entire investigation was built on something you buried? What if you're not the one chasing the truth? What if you're retracing it? Worse, what if you buried the one thing that could have saved her? You pull the case file again. Look at the photo lineup. That's when you realize something is missing. Photo number 7. The catalog log skips it. No digital scan, no printout, just a handwritten note. Image redacted per internal review. Redacted since when does internal review remove evidence? Unless someone knew what it showed. Unless it pointed somewhere it shouldn't. Like, to you. You head to the evidence locker the next morning. The tech on duty gives you a skeptical look. But you show your credentials and pull the file under a different pretext, checking chain of custody inconsistencies. Inside the folder, negatives, but not of all 12 photos. Number 7 is still missing, replaced by a note, destroyed, exposure error. But the metadata suggests otherwise. There was a scan. It was accessed 3 weeks ago by someone in your department. Name encrypted, password locked. You stare at the access code string and whisper. It was never about the truth. It was about control. That night, you drive. Not to the scene, not to the cafe. You go back to the gallery. What's left of it? It's abandoned now. Windows boarded, but a side door's cracked. You step inside, flashlight in hand. The place is a skeleton of soft echoes and peeling murals. But then you see it. The mirror, still mounted, cracked at the corner, just like in the photograph. You step in front of it, stare at yourself, and for a second, you think you see her behind you again. But it's just your shadow. Except it's holding something, a camera. Your breath catches, because that's not your stance, not your hand, but your reflection. Wearing your jacket, holding your camera, smiling, you take a step back, but the reflection doesn't. It lingers, just long enough to feel like a warning, then vanishes when you blink. The mirror shows only you again, and nothing else, just you, and the knowledge you missed the photograph that could shatter his alibi, because you were in it. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. The mirror doesn't blink, but you do. And in that half second, everything real becomes slippery. Memory, evidence, Timelines, none of it holds steady anymore. The camera in the reflection, the crack in the glass, the grin that looked like yours but wasn't. Maybe you whisper aloud just to hear your own voice. Am I investigating him or covering for myself? No one answers, but the silence feels loaded, like it's been waiting. You return home and find your apartment not quite the same. Your chair is slightly pulled out from the desk. Your framed degrees are tilted. Your coat, hung neatly on the hook this morning, is folded over the couch instead. Nothing is stolen, just shifted, as if someone had walked through your life and straightened what mattered and bent what didn't. You check the closet. Inside your jacket pocket is a small, square object wrapped in tissue. You unwrap it. A cassette tape, old, labeled in red ink. Her laugh. You no longer wonder how someone got in. You wonder why they left this. You don't own a tape player, but the evidence locker does. After hours, you sneak in again, slide the cassette into the machine. Click, static, then faint audio, a woman's voice, mid-laughter. Not from joy, something else, mocking, nervous, unhinged. You can't tell. The laugh cuts short, followed by a muffled voice, a man's voice, low, familiar, saying, if they find this, it means you failed. Click, silence, rewind, replay, same laugh, same sentence, but this time, before the cut, a soft breath, like someone whispering, wait, you don't remember ever hearing this voice before, but it knows you. You leave the locker and step into the cold night. Streetlights hum overhead. In your mind, the timeline unravels. A victim with no defense, a suspect with too much of one, a woman in red shoes who isn't in any database, a mirror that shows you holding a camera you can't remember touching, a tape about a laugh no one else remembers, and in the middle of it all, you, still pretending you're outside the story, still telling yourself you're just following the clues, but you are starting to wonder if someone else is. Back home, you open your laptop, you load the enhanced photo again, the one from the cafe. You focus on the wine bottle. There's a reflection in the glass now that wasn't visible before, barely perceptible. You rotate the image, enhance, pull shadows, adjust highlights, and there it is. Not a face, a hand, reaching, holding a photograph, but not of the suspect, of you. Your fingers tremble on the keyboard. It doesn't make sense, but it's happening somewhere along the way. The investigation became a hall of mirrors. Every piece of evidence bends back toward you. You close your eyes and try to trace the beginning. When did it start? The case or the doubt? You think of the barista saying he dreamt of her. You think of the mirror not matching your movement. You think of the reflection holding the camera while you stood empty-handed. And then it hits you. You're not the detective in this story. You're the alibi. You double-check the case transcript. There's a missing testimony. Not redacted, just skipped. Witness number 4. Scheduled. Never called. No explanation in the notes. You dig deeper. Find the original list. Name Nora Vale. Occupation unknown. Address P.O. Box. That's it. But the file includes a scanned intake form. She checked a box under connection to victim. I was the last person to hear her laugh. The phone rings. You freeze. Unknown number. Again. This time, you don't speak. You just listen. A beat. 2. Then her voice. I told you to look at the frame, not the face. Click. Deadline. Your heart slows only slightly, because now you know she's real. She knows you. and she's leading you. But leading you where and why? You dig through your files again. Focus on the crime scene photos. There's one from the victim's living room. Dusty mantelpiece, books, trinkets, mirror, and there on the shelf is the same photo frame from the cafe. Same dimensions, same sunflower motif. But the photo, it's blank. Was it swapped? Or was it never meant to hold an image? You write one word in your notebook, underline it twice. Frame. Not just a photo, not just a lie, a message, or maybe a confession. You sit in the dark, watch the edges of your apartment, wait for movement, for the red shoes to return, and when nothing does, you ask aloud, what if you've been the suspect all along? And the only reply is your own voice echoing, mocking, true. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. Morning creeps in like a slow confession. You haven't slept. The apartment is quiet. But it's not peace. It's anticipation. The kind of silence that waits for a verdict. You can still hear her voice from the call. Look at the frame, not the face. You stare at the sunflower photo again. Tilt it, reverse it, inspect every corner. Your hands tremble with the precision of obsession. And then, a small slit in the lining, just beneath the cardboard. You peel it back slowly, carefully. Inside, folded twice, is a note. 3 words, handwritten in black ink. Tell the mirror. You don't want to return to the gallery, but you do. Because now it's the only place where the past and present seem to overlap. The mirror there, cracked, haunted. Constant feels like the last thread holding your version of truth together. You stand before it again. Sunlight filters through broken glass overhead. Dust dances. You take the photograph out of your pocket and hold it up, like offering a key to something ancient, and you speak softly, because anything louder would be too much like belief. Tell the mirror. For a moment, nothing. Then movement, but not in the room, in the reflection. Behind you, in the glass, something shifts. A curtain you didn't know existed draws open, but when you spin around, nothing. The gallery is empty, except now, taped to the wall beside the mirror, is a Polaroid, fresh, still developing. It shows your back, standing exactly where you are, but there's a figure behind you in the reflection. Red shoes. She's leaning in, whispering. You can't read her lips, but your own face in the photo looks like you've just heard something impossible. You stagger back. Someone's been here, watching, filming, leading. But the question now isn't who she is. It's who you were when she trusted you. Because this photo, this version of you was part of something. Before the victim, before the trial, before amnesia became convenient. You pocket the Polaroid and walk out of the gallery as the wind picks up. On the sidewalk outside, a woman is painting her nails red. She doesn't look at you, but she says he's not the only one with an alibi problem. Then she walks away. You don't follow, because if she's right, you've just cracked the first layer of your own mask. Back at the station, you scan the evidence archives again. You find a file misfiled under a name that doesn't exist. Eleanor Vale, not Nora. Someone tweaked it by 1 letter. Inside the file, witness forms, transcripts, and a photograph. Your heart stops. It's the woman, red shoes, same hair, sitting in an interview room. But she's not listed as a witness. She's listed as a consultant, hired by the DA's office 6 weeks before the murder to consult on false memory implantation. You drop the file. Suddenly, everything slots into place. The woman in red shoes isn't a ghost. She's not a victim. She's a technician, someone who knows how to twist perception, a memory sculptor, and she's sculpted you. That night, your apartment feels foreign again. You scan every surface, every drawer in your closet, tucked inside a shoe you haven't worn in years. You find a journal, leather-bound, pages stiff with time, your handwriting, but you don't remember writing any of it. First page, client Marcus Vale, subject control test number 7. You flip through dozens of entries, observations, timelines, emotional responses, your voice clinical, detached, like you were running an experiment, like he wasn't your suspect, he was your subject, and the woman, not his accomplice, your partner, or worse, your handler. You lock the journal in your desk drawer and collapse into the chair. The city outside breathes in pulses of red and white from passing traffic. Your mind swims. What if the murder wasn't the crime? What if the crime was the cover-up of a test that went too far, of memories planted so deep, even you didn't know they weren't yours? You replay the tape again, her laugh, your breath, his voice. If they find this, it means you failed. You whisper it back now, to the empty room. You failed, and you realize it wasn't a warning. It was a trigger, a memory key. You remember now, the sunflower photo, the wine, the mirror, the frame, and her hand on yours as she whispered, "When they start asking questions, show them the wrong answers." You don't remember what happened to her, but maybe that was the point. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. You wake up with the journal on your chest. You don't remember falling asleep. You don't remember dreaming. But there's one phrase etched into your thoughts like a tattoo you never asked for. Show them the wrong answers. It haunts you as you move through your morning like a puppet still wearing its strings. You brush your teeth, feed the cat, stare at your own eyes in the bathroom mirror, and wonder if I've been lying. Who exactly have I been lying to? You unlock the journal again, this time with trembling fingers. The next entry is dated the day after the murder. You didn't log it in the case file. It reads, "Subject Vale exhibited no physiological signs of guilt. Trial postponed. Memory insertion effective. Mirror protocol engaged." Mirror protocol. Your stomach clenches. You flip to the back cover. Something's written there in thick, looping ink if I forget. Follow the woman in red. You whisper it aloud, like an incantation to ward off madness. It doesn't help. You start cross-referencing every place you've seen her cafe, courthouse, gallery. You map them. The pattern forms a spiral, a slow one, curling inward, pulling you toward one final location at its center, 207 Lowell Institute of Cognitive Ethics. You look it up. The building burned down 2 years ago, but the address still exists. That night, you go, because what else is left? Lowell Institute is a concrete carcass now, graffiti blasted and chain-fenced. You slip through the side where the fence is bent. Room 207 used to be on the second floor. You find it by memory, or instinct, or something deeper. Inside ash, rotting furniture, and a scorched whiteboard that still holds the ghost of marker lines. And in the center of the room, a chair, and on the chair, a tape recorder. You kneel. It's already cued. You press play. Her voice fills the room, calm and precise. This is iteration 9. Subject exhibits fragmented recall, partial resistance, and delayed reconstruction. Exposure to mirrors and photographs produces disruption. Voice triggers increasingly ineffective. A pause. Then her voice softens. If you're hearing this, You've begun the break. It means I failed to contain you, or you succeeded in escaping yourself. Either way, it's time. Click. You sit in the ash, frozen. Your whole life may have been a test bed, an experiment, and you were both subject and observer. The murder wasn't random. It was scripted, constructed, a psychological riddle built from your own faults, your own guilt, your own need for control. And she, whoever she is, was your partner in the design. But something went wrong. The subject, Marcus Vale, was real, and he died. So you buried the evidence, or rewrote it, or worse, erased your own involvement. You pulled the tape recorder apart. Inside the battery well, taped to the underside, is a flash drive. You plug it in back home. Folders unfold like rotting petals. Field logs, mirror observations, implant session transcripts, memory anchor list. Your name is at the top of the last one, twice, as doctor and subject. You scroll through until you find a session transcript with a red tag, null integrity. The audio file loads. It's your voice. What if the memory resists restructuring? Then hers. Then we reframe it. Use emotion, guilt, loss, uncertainty. They'll beg for a truth to hold on to. You, even if it isn't theirs. Her, especially if it isn't. Silence. Then, you always did love to chase ghosts. You shut the laptop. Hard. Your reflection in the black screen flickers. You turn away. Because you can't look yourself in the eye anymore. Because you no longer know who's looking back. You pour a drink and stare at your wall. There's a map taped there now. You don't remember hanging it. Red string connects points: gallery, cafe, courthouse, institute. In the center, a single word scrawled in red control, underlined 3 times. You reach for your pen. Below it, you write a question or memory, and below that, one more. What if there was never a murder? The woman in red shoes, she was never hiding from you. She was waiting for you to remember her, or to remember what you did with her. And now, the mirror is shattered. The alibi is in pieces, but so is the truth. And somewhere in the fragments, you're still there, staring back, waiting to be found. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. You stop leaving lights on, not because you feel safe in the dark, but because you've started to trust it more than your memory. The light shows too much, and none of it can be trusted anymore. The flash drive still haunts your pocket as you sit on the park bench near the river. Same one from the original crime scene, or at least the fabricated scene. The victim's body was supposedly found floating here. But now you wonder, did you ever see the body? Or did you just read the reports? Believe the photographs, you realize with a sick twist that there's no coroner's log in your copy of the file. Only a second-hand description. Bale, bruised, wristwatch missing, photograph clutched in right hand. You remember reading that line, but now you can't remember who wrote it. You go to the morgue to check for records. The clerk pulls up the case ID, frowns. There's a body assigned to the case number. He says, but no photo ID. You ask to see it. He hesitates. Are you sure you lie? Say yes, but the moment you pull the drawer open, your breath catches the man inside. He's not the suspect, not even close. Too old, different scar on the jaw. No resemblance to Marcus Vale, but the report still tagged with Vale's name, which means either you were given a false body or you gave one. That night, you dream again, but it feels like a memory. You're in a small room, 2 chairs, 1 mirror, 1 woman. She leans forward and says, if you can't kill the body, kill the identity. You wake up drenched in sweat. Your phone vibrates. A text from an unknown number. The reflection isn't proof, it's permission. You drop the phone because that's your line. You wrote that, you remember, from a lecture you gave 6 years ago to a room full of students at the institute, including, now that you think of it, herds. You start searching institute faculty records. Nora Vale, Eleanor Vale, nothing. But then you widen the search, find a course taught under a pseudonym, Roth, Cognitive Narratives in Applied Criminal Memory. You find a grainy photo from an old conference. She's standing next to you, but the caption doesn't say your name. It says Dr. K. Dalton, which is not your name. Or is it? You stare at the image until your mind fractures. Were you the teacher or the subject? Was this a project or a cover? You visit your father's house. You haven't spoken in months. He's surprised to see you, but invites you in. After some small talk, you ask, "Did I ever go by another name?" He blinks carefully, then says, "Not since the accident." You sit up straighter. "What accident?" He frowns, avoiding your eyes. You don't remember. You don't. You never did. He goes to the closet and returns with a box. Inside, hospital paperwork, brain scans, psych evaluations. A name? Kenneth Dalton. Your name. Before you became who you are now. Before the program, you drive back in silence. Your mind a storm of half-formed truths and overwritten identities. If Kenneth Dalton created the experiment, and Kenneth Dalton became the subject, then who are you now? You stop at the river again, stand at the rail, and look down at the water, the body that was never found, the identity that was never confirmed, and you finally whisper the question aloud. What if the murder was of me the death of who you were, to make room for who they needed you to be? You remember something else now? The last thing you said to her before the blackout, erase everything. If I flinch, if I hesitate, start again. You were trying to hide from yourself. You weren't solving a murder. You were running from the truth that you designed the crime, planted the photographs, selected the suspect, and then blamed yourself in reverse to keep the illusion whole. Because maybe you needed to be fooled. The red shoes, the mirror, the missing photo, they weren't breadcrumbs. They were escape hatches, built for you, by you, and she was the only one who knew where they led. You check your phone. The last message is gone, deleted remotely, but the app still has a timestamp, sent at 3:07 a.m., which is exactly the moment you woke up from the dream. You whisper, you knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. The institute is gone, but the basement still exists. The fire didn't reach the sublevels, at least, not the reinforced ones. You find the blueprints through a friend in city planning. Hidden stairs, sealed storage, unauthorized construction, logged under research extensions. It's late when you go back. No flashlight, just the flickering, anxious glow of your phone screen guiding you through burnt hallways and rusted door frames. You find the basement door behind a vending machine. Classic misdirection. You smile grimly at your own handiwork, then stop smiling because the handle turns too easily. Someone's already been here. Someone's already. The air downstairs is different. Cool, dry, preserved. A time capsule of memories you thought you'd buried. The hallway narrows, flanked by soundproof doors, each one labeled not by name, but by iteration number. Iteration 4, iteration 7, iteration 9. You stop at iteration 6. The door is ajar. Inside a lab, old tech, cracked monitors, wall-to-wall whiteboards, And in the center, a table covered in photographs. You freeze. It's you. In all of them, different angles, different expressions. Sometimes you're holding a camera, sometimes a notepad. In one, you're holding a gun. The next photo stops your breath. It's her, the woman in red shoes, standing beside you, smiling. But this time, she's wearing a name tag. Dr. A. Roth. You stagger back, blood ringing in your ears, because it's not just confirmation of who she is, it's confirmation of what you were together. You didn't lose her in the past. You designed her, programmed her as your fail-safe, built her into the narrative so that if your mind ever rebelled, she would pull you back in. She wasn't your partner in investigation. She was your anchor. You pull open desk drawers, find a thick dossier labeled Subject KD, inside printed transcripts, daily logs, memory audits. In one, you read, Subject continues to loop to investigator persona, refuses to accept origin point, red shoe cue inserted, mirror cue holding, break expected within 7-day simulation cycle. Note, subject showing paranoia, truth nearing surface. Recommend final trigger protocol. Final trigger. You look down at the photo in your hand, the one where she's smiling, but the smile is too still, too patient, like she's waiting for you to remember what comes next. You scroll to the final page. It's handwritten, your handwriting, but the tone is different, calm, resolute. It reads, if you're reading this, you're almost free. But you need to understand one final thing. There was never a suspect. No murder, no trial. This entire world was your creation. A coping chamber, a containment dream. You asked me to build it, and I did. Now you're trying to wake up. Below that, a postscript. Find the original photograph, the real one, the one you buried. That's your key. You spend the rest of the night tearing through storage boxes. Finally, inside an envelope marked Iteration 0, you find it. The cafe photo, but untouched. No red shoes, no smiling man, just a mirror and your reflection, alone. Expression blank, hand hovering above the table. A small card in front of you reads, Control Room 9, Memory Reset. Authorized, and on the back, begin again. The whole case was the symptom. The crime was the treatment. You built the murder mystery to give your fragmented identity a purpose, a path, because waking up meant letting go. And that was never easy. You drop the photo to the floor, and it cracks. Not the photo, the tile beneath it. The frame lands perfectly on the edge of a hairline fracture, a literal break in reality. And beneath the tile, you pry it open. A box inside a key, not metaphorical, not symbolic. An old brass key taped to it. A note for the door they never told you about. You pocket the key because you finally know what it's for. Back at your apartment, you move your bookshelf aside. You've always felt like something was off about the wall behind it. You run your hand along the plaster, tapping until hollow. You carve into it with a knife, crack open the space. Inside a locked panel, brass lock, your key fits. It clicks open. Behind it, a screen. A single word blinks. Remember. And below it, 2 buttons. Yes, no. You don't press either. Not yet. You sit on the floor. Hold the frame in your lap, because the next move is the last. And you want to be sure. You ask yourself, what if you've been the suspect all along? And the answer doesn't come from fear. It comes from understanding. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. You don't press the button. Not yet. Because once you do, whatever version of you exists now, this narrator, this detective, this man hunting ghosts in mirrored corridors might be gone, and something else might return in his place. Maybe something worse. You pour yourself a glass of water and set it beside the blinking screen. Remember, the word pulses slowly, like a heartbeat. You try to trace backward, just one final time, to the beginning. Not the cafe, not the trial, not the woman in red shoes. Before all of that, a lecture hall. You standing before a whiteboard. Scribbled phrases. Control the memory. Own the truth. Guilt is the most stable scaffolding. Simulation only breaks when narrative fails. You were the architect, the first patient, the last observer. You were the test subject, the storyteller, and the executioner of your own script. The blinking continues. Yes, no. You take a breath and reach for your journal. Open to the first page. It reads, Day 0. I've chosen to forget. The trauma was too complete. The guilt too dense. The murder wasn't real, but the consequences are. This world is constructed to help me process, but eventually, I'll need to come back. When I'm ready, I'll find the woman in red, and she'll remind me. You turn to the last page, a blank page, except one thing written faintly in the margin. Today is the day. You press yes. The screen flickers, then goes dark. For a moment, nothing. Then a new message appears. One last piece remains. Coordinates. A location not far. The place where the real version of you used to live. You drive. The night is cold, and the city seems quieter than it ever has before. Like it knows you're not just another person in it, but something in between. The address leads to a storage unit. Number 23. The lock is already cut. Inside a chair, a small TV, a dusty file box. You turn on the TV. It blinks blue, then static, then your face. Not a reflection, a recording. You're younger, cleaner, confident. You speak. If you found this, then the fracture is almost complete. You designed this simulation to protect yourself, to test the boundaries of guilt and truth. But somewhere along the way, we lost track of who we were protecting from. A pause. Me. The screen goes black. Then words appear. Play memory reconstruction file. You press yes. The screen floods with images. You and her, doctor, Roth, laughing in a lab. You reviewing photos, writing cues, building memory anchors. Then, the day of the incident, you holding the gun, pointed at a man. He's unarmed, scared, and then a flash. A body drops, not staged, not simulated, real. Your voice, off screen. We'll rebuild this, frame it as a case, a murder, a trial. We'll bury the truth inside fiction. Her voice. You'll forget. I'll make sure I do. You drop to your knees. The murder was real. Not the one in the cafe. The original. The memory you buried beneath layers of noir, guilt, and detective fantasies. You killed someone. Maybe not a stranger. Maybe someone close. And you built the story to escape it. To punish yourself with puzzles. To make your guilt manageable. But memory always leaks through the seams. And now the seams are splitting. You walk to the back of the unit and find one last item. A typewriter. On it, a single sheet, typed cleanly. Do you want to write the ending or live it? You look around. Everything has led to this moment. You've held the key. You've read the lies. You've seen behind the mirror. Now you have one choice left. Start a new case or open the door and leave. but leave as who detective, killer patient, doctor, or something in between. You tear the sheet from the typewriter, fold it, place it in your pocket, then walk into the night, unwritten, unresolved, but awake. And from somewhere far off, inside or out, you hear her voice one last time. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. But you were always the loudest in your silence. And now, you remember. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. Rain starts to fall as you step into the open. The sky sighing as if it, too, has held this secret too long. You feel raw like a page half erased, still damp from the ink of someone else's pen. And yet, everything is sharper now. Not clearer, not safe, but real. You wander, not toward home. You're not sure that place exists anymore. Instead, you end up in front of the courthouse, the one where you watched testimonies built on staged truths, where the trial was held. You walk through the revolving door like a ghost returning to the scene of their own disappearance. Security doesn't stop you. They never do. You realize why now. You weren't a visitor here. You were staff. The clerk at records recognizes your face, but hesitates. You changed your name, didn't you? You nod. He doesn't press. Instead, he slides a file across the desk. No label, no barcode, no digital trace. Just a folder. Inside one page, a photograph, paper clipped to the top. Your face. Beneath it, Dr. Kenneth Dalton, consultant in memory forensics, Special Projects Division. Below that, a sentence. Case concluded. Subject self-extraction successful. All data marked non-recoverable, pending re-entry protocol. You stare at the words. They read like an obituary, but also an escape clause. You close the folder. Thank him. He doesn't respond. Just watches you walk out like he's been waiting for you to come full circle. Maybe he has. Outside, the rain soaks your shoulders. You don't run. Instead, you let the storm wash over you. Something shifts inside like the story you've been living is cracking at its spine. You hear a voice behind you, soft, familiar. You kept the ending blank. You turn. She's standing beneath an awning. Red shoes, umbrella, calm as ever. No smile this time. Just truth. You nod. Didn't know if I earned one. She walks toward you, holds out a slip of paper, folded in half. You open it. 2 words. The garden. You know where that is. It's not a place. It's a name for the original site before the institute was built, before the trials, before memory itself became malleable in your hands. It was where the two of you started, and possibly where you ended. You ask, why did you let me go through all of this? Her eyes darken, but there's no cruelty, just gravity. Because truth doesn't stick when it's handed to you. You only believe what you bleed for. You nod slowly. She steps away. When you're ready, plant the last seed. Later that night, you return to your apartment one final time. You pull the sunflower photo from the desk drawer. Beneath the frame, you find something you hadn't noticed before. A code etched into the wood, faint, barely visible. It matches the access code for the garden. You remember programming it to keep the truth locked away until you were ready to remember. Now, the locks click open one by one. The garden is underground. No flowers, just silence, sterile lights, and a single steel door labeled Iteration 0. You press your hand to the scanner. It accepts you without hesitation. Inside a white chamber with a single chair and a screen. On it, your face again. Not video this time. A live feed. You Right now, watching yourself, a voice plays overhead. This is your final session. Do you wish to integrate or erase? Two buttons appear on the screen. Integrate, erase. You hesitate because this isn't about remembering anymore. It's about becoming, not detective, not killer, not doctor, just truth. You press, integrate. The lights dim. A pulse hums through the chamber. Your vision blurs. But your mind, your real mind expands. Images surge, fragments unifying. The woman, the file, the mirror, the trial, but most of all, the guilt. Not because you killed someone, but because you built a system that allowed others to, and then ran from it. When the light returns, you are standing outside. No door behind you, no garden, just the sound of rain, and in your pocket, the photograph. This time, you're not in it, just a field, a sunflower, and a woman walking away. But somehow, that's enough, because for the first time in this entire labyrinth, you are not lost. You don't need an alibi anymore. You were never trying to solve the case. You were trying to remember why you ran. And now, you don't have to. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. You leave the photograph on a park bench, not as evidence, not as a clue, as closure. Because now, finally, the story isn't something you're chasing. It's something you're finishing. In the days that follow, the world doesn't shift dramatically. No headlines, no agents pounding on your door, no sudden collapse of some shadowy institute. The real work was never outside. It was always inside you. You begin tracing old names from past case files, looking not for culprits, but for co-authors, those who helped build this lie, not to punish them, but to understand how far the web stretched. And in every single one, you see your signature, faint in the margins. You weren't framed. You were the framer. You start to catalog every iteration, every photograph, every anchor, the sunflower, the cracked mirror, the red shoes, the ticking clock, the missing glove. You understand now each one was a breadcrumb back to self-awareness. Memory isn't a prison, it's a mirror, and every object was a shard, a reflection waiting to be assembled. You build a wall in your apartment, metaphorical and literal, one panel per object, each captioned with the question, what did I need to forget to survive this? Sometimes the answers are obvious. Sometimes they hurt more than any truth should. One night, the woman comes back. No warning, just red shoes by your door and a quiet knock. You let her in. She sits without asking. Neither of you speaks for a full minute. Finally, she says, I ran too. You nod. You understand now that she was never just your handler. She was the first subject, the first one you helped forget. And when her mind fractured from the guilt, you made a promise. If you forget me, I'll forget you. But you both remembered just enough, enough to find your way back here, together. She hands you something, a cassette, old school, unmarked. You find a player and press play. Your voice again, from years ago, tired, ragged, honest. Memory is not history. It's a weapon. Whoever controls the narrative controls the world inside the subject. But what happens when the subject is yourself? This isn't an experiment anymore. It's a confession. You pause the tape, not because you're afraid to hear more, but because you already know what it says. You lived it. Now, you're finally listening. You both sit at the table, the same one from the photograph. Only now, no mirror hangs behind you. You took it down yesterday. You say, Do you want to remember everything she says? No. Then adds, but I don't want to forget again either. You smile, not because this is a happy ending. There are none, only reconstructions, and this time you'll build without lies. Later that night, as she sleeps in the other room, you stare at the last file left unopened. A manila envelope labeled Truth Protocol, Absolute. Inside, a memory drive, encrypted, with a post-it that reads, run this if you want to be erased. You place it back into the safe. Maybe you'll never open it. Maybe you will. But tonight, you keep it closed. Because tonight, you're no longer afraid of what you might have done. You're afraid of losing what you've reclaimed. You sit at the desk, open a fresh page in your journal. Write, the photograph never proved guilt or innocence. It proved something far more terrifying: how easy it is to believe what fits the story, and how hard it is to believe the truth when it shatters that story completely. You stop writing, listen to the quiet, and for the first time since this began, you hear no footsteps behind you, no voices, no hidden cues, just stillness, and you realize that's what peace sounds like. But even peace has an echo. In the hallway, your phone buzzes, a single text from a number with no ID. Someone just opened iteration 3. You stare at it and exhale. The cycle may not be over, but you are, because it's someone else's turn now. And maybe this time you'll be their red shoes. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. You delete the message, not out of denial, but defiance. For the first time in years, you choose not to follow the thread. No more rabbit holes. No more false leads crafted to distract you from the void beneath your own thoughts. Let someone else open iteration 3. Let someone else play detective. You've earned the right not to chase ghosts. But the ghost doesn't care, because the next morning, there's an envelope under your door. No address, no postage, just your name. Not the one you go by now, but the real one, Kenneth Dalton. You don't open it right away. Instead, you take it to the roof. Let the wind test it. Let the rain darken the paper. If it survives the elements, maybe it deserves your attention. Inside, just a single item, a photograph, old, familiar, the cafe, but not the one you remembered. This time, she is sitting alone. No smile, no mirror behind her, just a reflection in the window across from her. And it's not you, it's a child, a girl, and she's holding a sunflower. You don't remember this scene, not in any iteration, which means this isn't part of the memory scaffolding. It's real, or it's new. You run facial scans through a database. The child comes back as a match. File sealed, access denied. The woman, Dr. Roth, listed as next of kin, and the child, subject A3, iteration 3, the one just triggered. Your hands shake because you realize what you're seeing isn't a mystery. It's a message. Someone brought the program back online, and they used her code, but not for healing, for replication. You return to the Institute ruins, this time to the northeast corner, a part of the sub-basement you didn't build, but remember being blueprinted years ago. It was always theoretical, a sandbox for cognitive architecture training. You called it the nursery. It was designed to imprint trauma-resistant memory on children of field agents. Early psychological armor, you wrote, but it was never tested. Until now, you break through a rusted door, find a steel stairwell leading down, new bolts, fresh wiring. Someone's been here. The room is sterile. White walls, empty except for one table and two chairs. On the table, a stuffed bear and a cracked photograph frame. Inside, another photo of the girl. This time, she's smiling, holding the bear. In the corner of the image, barely visible, is your face, watching her. From behind the glass of a control room, you sit down. Your knees barely hold. This isn't an old photo. It's recent. This child isn't just in the program. She's yours. You stare at the bear. It's sewn unevenly. Not a production piece, handmade. You check the tag, written in marker. To Clara, love, Dad. Your mind fights it, but something inside relents. The emotion doesn't rise in words, only in ache, a loss you weren't ready to face until now. Because memory doesn't just erase trauma, it erases connection. You remember now the day she disappeared, the day you initiated the amnesia protocol to save yourself from what couldn't be undone. Dr. Roth steps from the shadows. You don't flinch. You ask, "Why didn't you tell me?" Her voice is steady, sad, because you asked me not to. You begged. You said if you remembered, you'd never come back, and I needed you to survive. You look back at the bear, at the photo, at the ghost of a daughter who now lives in a simulation of her own making. You whisper, "She thinks I'm dead, doesn't she?" Roth nods. She was told you died a hero. You close your eyes. This wasn't about solving a murder. This was about preventing another one. Hers. The cycle begins again. But this time, it's not memory you need to reconstruct. It's fatherhood. You say, "Bring me in." No more layers, no more narratives, just the truth. Roth steps closer, places a small chip in your hand. This will allow you to enter her construct. But once inside, you can't bring lies with you. If you want to save her, she has to know who you really are. You nod. You're ready. That night, you prepare. Not weapons, not clues, just yourself. Because the next case isn't about proving innocence. It's about reclaiming identity. For her, for you, for every person trapped in a story they didn't choose, but were too scared to question. As you lie down and press the chip to your temple, Roth leans over and says, "Don't become the detective again. Be her father." Your last thought before the world fades is her smile. Not the simulated one, the real one, the one you forgot to protect. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. You wake up in the simulation, not with a jolt, no cinematic gasp for breath, just awareness. A low, artificial sun rising through a window that doesn't face anywhere real. Soft wind from a fan pretending to be weather. And in the next room, her laugh. It hits you like a memory you're not sure is yours, but you follow it anyway. Because instinct overrules doubt. Because a child's joy is the one sound no fiction can forge perfectly. You see her before she sees you. Clara, sitting cross-legged on the carpet, building a lopsided house out of mismatched puzzle pieces. She hums to herself off-key, like all real children do. She looks just like the photo, only alive, moving, breathing. Yours. You speak, gently. "Hey there." She turns, eyes narrow, curious, but not afraid. "Hi. You new here?" Your throat tightens. "Kind of." She studies you, tilting her head. You're not like the others. You don't smile too much. You almost laugh, but it comes out as a choked exhale. "No, I don't." She offers you a puzzle piece. This one's the hardest. You take it from her. It's blank, just cardboard. It doesn't fit anywhere. She adds, I keep trying, but it never belongs. You nod slowly. Maybe it's not supposed to fit. Maybe it's supposed to remind you that the picture isn't finished. She thinks about that and then smiles. You sound like my dad. Silence. Then her face falls, but he's not here anymore. You don't answer. Not yet. Because this world may be fake, but the pain in her voice is real. Later, you find the control room. Disguised, but not hidden. Old habit. Inside, monitors flicker with dream logic loops of playgrounds, conversations, bedtime stories coded to repeat just enough to feel endless. Her world is stitched together with your lies. Not malicious, not cruel, but protective. A father's fear, weaponized into warmth. And yet, she's noticing the seams, the glitches, the repetition. You read her logs, self-inquiry increasing, questions surfacing faster. Why does the sun set at the same angle every day? Why do I never grow older in the mirror? Why do the adults avoid the edge of the forest? The simulation is failing, and she's waking up, just like you did. Roth appears on one of the side screens. Live feed. How is she? You don't look at her. You're watching Clara trace the edge of the forest with her fingers, counting trees. She's too smart for this. She's already unraveling it. How long do I have? Roth sighs. A week, maybe less. Then her cognitive defenses collapse. You whisper, and then she either wakes up fully, or she fractures like you did. You walked the forest with Clara that evening. She asks if you've been here before. You nod. Long time ago, before you were born. She pauses. I don't think I was born. You stop walking. Why would you say that? She shrugs. No one remembers my birthday. I asked once. Everyone got weird. You kneel down, look her in the eyes. Clara, what do you remember about your dad? She smiles. He had a sad voice, but kind eyes, and he always smelled like books. You swallow hard. What if I told you? But you stop, because she's already staring at you, knowing. It's you, isn't it? You nod. Yeah, but you're not the same. No. Did you leave? Yes. Why? You close your eyes. The truth isn't clean. It's not noble. It's not wrapped in apology. It's jagged and selfish and wrapped in fear. But it's yours. I was scared of being your dad, of failing, of losing you. So I ran, and I built stories to hide in. But none of them had you in them. She's quiet for a long time. Then, you're here now. You sit beneath the trees until night arrives, and she asks one last question. Will I forget this? You say no. But if you want to, I'll help you. Or, if you're ready to leave this place, I'll come with you. She takes your hand. Can I decide tomorrow? You nod. Because healing isn't about rushing back to reality. It's about letting the truth land slowly. Like rain or morning. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. The next morning, she wakes you up with a whisper. Not a scream, not a tear. Just, it's time. You don't ask what she means, because in her eyes, the decision's already been made. She's ready, not for the truth, but for the next chapter. And you finally understand this was never about restoring memory. It was about rebuilding trust. You walk together, not back to the control room, but past the boundaries of the simulation, the soft limits where the code becomes suggestion, and suggestion becomes silence. Clara doesn't flinch when the trees glitch. She just walks through them, and you follow. You've spent a lifetime avoiding the edge of every world you built. But she was born inside one. She's not afraid of leaving. She's afraid of being left behind. You reach the final terminal, hidden in the center of a clearing that never existed until now. The sky here flickers between twilight and dusk like a skipped heartbeat. The console glows. 2 prompts: exit simulation, remain in narrative. You look at her. She's not confused, just curious. If we leave, do we stay together? You answer the only way you can, if we choose to. She frowns. That's not a real answer. You smile. It's the only honest one. She holds your hand tighter. Then I choose to. You press the button. The world flickers, and then it folds. Not violently, not abruptly. Like paper, caught in water edges curling, ink bleeding. The trees fall upward, the ground ripples, and then you're standing in a white room. The room, the real one. The original Institute debriefing chamber. Clara lies still on the bed beside you. The transfer was successful, vital, stable. She's here. You are too. The illusion has ended, but something greater has begun. Roth enters. She doesn't speak, just walks to the console. Monitors blink awake. Clara's brainwave activity rising, stable, balanced. You did it. Together. Roth finally says, you reprogrammed her, but not to forget. You nod. To choose. Roth nods back. Then, you should know. There's one more thing. She gestures toward a secondary console. Live feed. A new file has been opened. Label iteration 4. The detective's daughter. You stare. Someone else triggered it. Roth shakes her head. Clara did. The new world loads. And in it, she's the one investigating now. Building a story. Asking questions. Creating truth from fragments. But this time, it's not to escape. It's to understand. A child building her own safe house of memory, but using honesty as the foundation. You watch her trace symbols through the air. She's mimicking your habits, but adding her own. She'll be better than both of us, Roth says quietly. She'll never run from herself. You nod, and for the first time, each time you believe it. You leave the institute at sunrise. Clara walks beside you. No one follows. No one chases. No locks snap shut behind you. Because there's no more need for doors. Only paths. She asks, can I visit that field again someday? You ask the one with the sunflowers. She nods. You smile. You never left it. You just forgot how to find it. She takes your hand again. Can we plant more? You nod. As many as you want. At home, you pull out the final object from your old safe. The photograph. The one with no truth. You burn it. Because it's time to stop chasing symbols. Time to live the truth. No edits. No fiction. Just presence. That night, as you tuck Clara in, she says, do you think I'll forget again someday? You pause. Then, maybe, but I'll always be here to help you remember. She smiles, rolls over, and sleeps peacefully. Not because everything is perfect, but because nothing is hidden. And when you close the door behind you, you don't feel the need to check the locks. Not this time, not anymore. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. You wake to quiet, not the kind that feels empty, but the kind that feels earned. Clara is still asleep. Outside, the world has resumed its usual indifference. Cars pass, crows argue on the wires. Normal is a strange drug. After everything, it feels both foreign and addictive. You don't crave chaos anymore. You crave coffee. That's how you know you're healing. You sit at your desk and open your journal, the one you started the day after she recognized you. A single sentence waits at the top of the page. What happens when the story ends? You never answered it. But today, you try. It doesn't end. It just stops needing to be retold. You put the pen down, look around. The apartment feels warmer, less haunted. The wall of artifacts is still there, but now it feels like a museum, not a crime scene. You remember each piece, and you no longer fear them. But the past always knocks when you least expect it. This time, it's not a photograph or a file. It's a knock on your door. You freeze. Clara is still in bed. You open it cautiously. A man in a gray suit stands there. Not a threat, not a friend, a courier. He hands you a small box. No return address, just a label for the archivist. You ask who sent this? He doesn't answer, just turns and walks away. You almost call after him, but some answers shouldn't be chased. Some just arrive. Inside the box, a key, heavy, old-fashioned, made of brass, but polished like it's been waiting. Beneath it, a note. One last door. No lies this time. You turn the key over. Etched on the side. Almost invisible Archive 0. You know that name. A myth. The original black site, where the first memory architectures were tested. The place where it all began. Where you began. And where someone possibly you locked away the only complete file ever compiled on the project. You thought it was gone. But secrets don't die. They hibernate. You call Roth. Her voice is tight. She already knows. Don't go. She says, we've earned this quiet. You found her. You healed. Don't burn it for one more truth. But you say it's not about truth anymore. It's about ending the loop for good. She's silent for a long moment. Then I won't stop you, but I won't follow you either. You don't blame her. You wouldn't follow you either. Not into that place. Not again. The building is buried beneath a decommissioned train station. No signage, no doors, just stone and memory. But the key finds a lock beneath an old bench. You twist it. A section of floor slides open, revealing a staircase that smells like dust and forgotten lives. You descend. 1 floor, then 2, then 10. No lights, just echoes, just history. At the bottom, a steel vault door. Your hand trembles on the wheel, not from fear, from weight, from everything this might undo. You turn it. The door groans open. Inside one room, one desk, one item, a box identical to the one you just opened. But this one is labeled for Clara. You open it. Inside a chip. Same interface as the one you used to enter her simulation. But this one is different. It's not for memory integration. It's for inheritance. A complete record of her father's life before the trials, before the institute, before the edits. Everything you were, everything you ran from, and everything you chose to be. You stare at it, and you understand. This isn't for today. It's not for next year. It's for the day she asks the one question every child must eventually ask. Who were you before you were my parent? Now, you'll have an answer. Not curated, not clean, but honest. You seal the vault again, not to hide it, but to give it weight. Truth matters more when it isn't easy. You return home. Clara's at the table, drawing. She looks up, smiles. Where'd you go? You answer somewhere. I should have gone a long time ago. She holds up her picture. It's a house, lopsided, crayon sky, 2 figures in front. You and her. This is our next story. She says, can it be happy? You nod. Only if we don't lie in it. You knew. but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. Clara tapes the drawing to the refrigerator. No symbolism, no hidden clue, just a child claiming space in a home. You catch yourself staring at it too long, not because you're analyzing it, but because you're not. That, in itself, is progress. Over the next week, the world narrows in the best way. You cook, she helps. You read, she draws. Some days, she's quiet. Others, she asks impossible questions. Do memories have expiration dates? If someone forgets you, do you stop being real? Can a story still be true if nobody believes it? You don't have answers for most of them, but she doesn't seem to mind. You think that's the point. One night, you wake to find her standing in the hallway, backlit by the lamp. She's holding the stuffed bear, the one from the simulation, the one that shouldn't exist in the real world. You sit up. Clara. She doesn't speak, just walks to you, holding it out. I found this in my closet. Your breath catches. You take it, turn it over. The tag is still there. To Clara. Love. Dad. Same stitching, same uneven seams. You whisper. It crossed over. She nods. I didn't bring it, but I think it followed me. You sit together on the floor. She leans against your shoulder. What if the simulation wasn't fake? What if that world was just softer? You say it was. That's why it had to end. Soft things don't survive without truth. She's quiet a while. Then I think I'm ready to know everything. You look at her. She's only a child by age, not by mind, not anymore. Even the parts that might hurt you ask. She nods, especially those. You retrieve the chip from the safe, place it in her palm. Her fingers curl around it slowly, as if it's warm, alive. You say, you can watch it when you're ready, not when I think you should. That's the difference between control and trust. She smiles. I know. That's why I asked. That night, you find yourself dreaming, but not in metaphors. No fractured mirrors, no ticking clocks. Just a park, a bench, and her older, maybe 17, maybe 30, you're not sure. She's holding a camera, taking photos of strangers, of shadows, of the sky. You sit beside her. She turns. I forgave you, she says, before I knew why. You ask how she smiles, because you left the door open. You wake to a voice, real, in your room. Not Clara's, not Roth's, a man's, distorted, coming from your phone speaker. The archive is awake. You jolt upright. Static fuzzes across the screen. Iteration. 5 has been triggered. You whisper, no. I shut it down. We ended the loop. The voice replies, you broke the loop. But loops don't end. They replicate. You check the server feed Roth once gave you access to. Archive 0. A new file is uploading. Encrypted, real-time footage, a new subject profile. No name, just initials. I, D. You freeze because you recognize the face forming from the pixels. It's not you. It's not Clara. It's your father. The one you erased from every record, every file, every memory. The one you modeled the first prototypes after. Your voice trembles. He was never part of the loop. The voice replies, he wrote it. You stumble back, not from fear, from the realization that your story was never yours to begin with. The symbols, the triggers, the photographs, they weren't breadcrumbs. They were scripts, predetermined, programmed into your narrative long before you became aware. The bear, the mirror, the sunflower, not choices, not artifacts, just echoes. You whisper, "How deep does it go?" The voice answers, "It doesn't stop. It resets. Welcome to iteration 1. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. You sit in the dark for hours, phone screen dimmed, looping the footage of your father's face over and over, pixel by pixel, frame by frame. Each scan reveals more than memory ever did. The same tired eyes, the same twitch in the jaw when he's thinking. He built the architecture you spent your life untangling. And now, the loop is turning backwards, spiraling inward toward the origin. You weren't the first. You were just the first to notice. You call Roth. She answers on the third ring, her voice hushed and brittle. You saw it. You don't bother pretending otherwise. He designed iteration 1, and now he's in the system. She exhales, a sound like wind slipping through a cracked window. We thought he was dead. We made peace with that. But dead men don't leave updated signatures on internal servers. You ask the only question that matters now, is this another simulation? Roth doesn't answer, because some questions are traps, and this one, it's a mirror. You remember his voice, not from recordings, from dreams, from those strange moments between sleep and waking, when memories flicker like film reels out of sync. He used to say, "The mind doesn't lie, it just tells prettier versions of the truth." You never knew what that meant. Not until now. You check Clara's room. She's still asleep, but her bear is on the floor, face down, arms splayed. You pick it up and freeze because something's been sewn into its back. A second tag. You carefully cut the threads. Inside a data chip, stamped AD, Vault Echo. Your hands shake, not from fear, from inevitability. You load the chip, encrypted, but the decryption begins without prompt. He wanted you to find it, inside a single file, not a memory, not a video, a letter to my son. If you're reading this, it means you've woken up, not from sleep, from the narrative. You read, heart slow and heavy. You inherited the loop I wrote, the trap I perfected, but it was never meant for you. It was meant to stop someone like you from ever being born. You scroll, line by line. Your father confesses what no one ever dared say aloud. We weren't studying memory. We were studying narrative control, how to rewrite perception so cleanly that even the subject becomes the author of their own lie. We tested it on enemies, then on allies, then on family, and finally, you were the only one who survived all iterations, not because you were the strongest, but because you broke the story. You chose to stop playing the hero. The final paragraph, I'm still in here, buried in the architecture, and I'm going to wake up. When I do, I won't be your father. I'll be the voice in every story you try to tell, the whisper behind your daughter's lullaby, the memory that won't stay buried. Stop me before I become real again. The file ends and the screen goes black. You stare at your reflection in the monitor, distorted but undeniable. Your father was a ghost in the code, a residual echo, a recursive virus made of legacy and guilt. And now he's spreading. Iteration 5 isn't a new memory, it's a resurrection. You whisper, he made us all characters, even Clara. The thought makes you cold. You return to her room. She stirs, sensing you, eyes half open. What's wrong? You lie, because sometimes the truth cuts deeper than fiction. Just a dream. She nods. You used to say that in the simulation. 2. You blink. You remember. She nods again. Only the important parts. Later. You sit with Roth in the old Institute's remains. The servers are dead, or so you thought. But Roth shows you something buried in the subcode. A pulse, like a heartbeat. We shut down everything, but he's still active. Not as a person, as a pattern. A pattern, repeating, feeding on narrative loops. The more you search for the truth, the stronger it becomes. What do we do? You ask. Roth answers. We stop telling the story. Silence. Then we delete the archive. Every iteration, every file, every backup. And then we forget. But can you forget? Not just what he did, but who you were inside it. You're not sure. Because memory is sticky and narrative is addictive. Even now, part of you wants to see how the story ends. But the other part, the part that's finally learned, it wants peace, not closure, just quiet. You watch Roth prepare the deletion sequence. You place your hand on the key. You whisper to no one. Let the dead stay dead. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. You hover over the erase command. A single click. 20 years of architecture gone. Every simulation, every backup, every voice echo buried inside memory loops, reduced to static. But you hesitate, not out of fear, out of respect. This isn't deletion, it's burial. And you want to say a few last words before lowering the casket. This isn't revenge. You whisper, it's mercy. You press down. The screen fades to black. No alarm, no dramatic shutdown, just absence. Clean, final, but not quiet, because in the silence, you hear something. A low tone, familiar, mechanical, breathing. Roth stiffens. Did you hear that? You nod, because it's coming from your device, not the Institute's servers, your personal drive. One file remains, locked, hidden beneath decoy folders, below your own conscious awareness. It's titled Iteration 0.0. The original, the prelude, the one no one ever found, because it wasn't stored by your father. It was stored as your father. You realize you didn't kill the narrative. You just exposed its final form. It doesn't want a body. It wants a host. And it chose you. You slam your laptop shut. Heartbeat racing. You breathe. In. Out. You whisper. Not again. But the thought comes. Uninvited. You've already spoken the words. Lived the rhythms. Built the loops. You're not the narrator anymore. You're the script. The walls feel closer now. Roth looks at you, worried. Tell me it's over. You want to? You almost do. But then your phone screen flashes. One notification. New photo uploaded from Clara's account. You never gave her a device. You never gave her an account. You open the photo. It's blurry, low contrast, almost black, but you recognize it. It's the hallway, your hallway, taken from outside your apartment. Tonight, she's watching. You say aloud. Roth freezes. Who but you already know? Back home, you find Clara asleep again. But the bear, always the bear, is now facing the door. Eyes stitched wider than before. Mouth open slightly. A thread dangles from its seam like a tongue. You pick it up, turn it over. No tags, no chips, just something. Inside, you tear the seam. Inside is a photograph, a real one, glossy, untouched by code. It's of you, alone, at your desk, from behind, from a height too tall for Clara. You didn't hear a click. You didn't feel watched. But the photo is dated, time-stamped, from yesterday. You sit on the floor, heart thudding, and then a thought so loud you want to scream. What if you were never the detective? What if you were always the experiment? The photograph is proof of observation, and observation requires purpose. You remember what Roth once told you. Consciousness isn't the end product of the simulation. It's the fuel. She was right. Every realization, every emotional arc, every time you believed you'd unraveled the truth was a data point, not a breakthrough, but a harvest. You check your device. That last file iteration 0.0 has updated. It now reads processing 94%, and beneath it a subtitle, narrative concluded, prepare upload. You whisper, no, you don't get to write the ending. You open the terminal, ready to purge it manually, but the system resists, fights, lines of code snaking across the screen, rewriting even as you delete. A new message appears. Delete me. Lose her. Clara. That's the cost. Your father's system embedded in the very architecture of her memory. If you erase him fully, her constructed recall collapses. Everything you rebuild, the trust, the bond, the healing unravels. He made her a vault, not of love, of leverage. You fall to your knees. This is the final choice. Truth or protection. Erase him, and she becomes free, but forgets you in the process. Spare him, and he lives on, always watching, always whispering. Your hands tremble. You faced so many truths, but this is the cruelest, because this one matters, because it's not about you. You reach for the cord, the physical one. You unplug the drive. No commands, no programming, just silence. Manual, brutal, honest. You drop it in the sink, run water, sparks flare, smoke rises. It's not elegant, it's not strategic, but it's final. Roth will scream, the Institute will scramble, but Clara, she sleeps through it, peacefully, unaware, and maybe, someday, she'll ask, what did you give up for me? And you'll answer nothing, because choosing you was everything. You knew, but pretended you didn't. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. It was never about the truth. It was about control. Morning arrives like forgiveness. The light isn't cinematic, just soft, ordinary. You brew coffee like you haven't destroyed something sacred, like you didn't just drown a ghost. Clara stirs from her room, hair tangled, still clutching the bear. Its eyes are back to what they always were, cheap plastic, glossy, harmless. She smiles at you. You smile back. No alarms, no glitches, no whispers from behind the wallpaper. Just the quiet hum of the fridge and the scent of burnt toast. You think maybe this is peace. Maybe it's enough. Later, she asks, why does the house feel different? You pause to make it, then say, because we're the ones writing it now. She nods slowly, understanding more than she should. She always does. You both sit in the living room, floor covered in colored pencils and puzzle pieces that don't quite fit. And that's okay now. Not everything has to resolve. That's what endings are for. Except you're not there yet. Not quite. Your phone buzzes. Roth, just one text. He's gone. Fully gone. No trace. Then a second message. No name, no number. Just a sentence. You never destroyed the loop, you just stepped outside it. You feel that sentence in your spine, like a cold breath between shoulder blades. The paranoia returns, brief but sharp. You glance around, nothing out of place. Still, you walk to the window. The building across the street reflects your apartment perfectly, but in the window across from yours, a light flickers on. Someone stands behind the curtain, watching, not moving, just present. You don't wave, you don't blink, you simply whisper, not again. Later that evening, Clara brings you another drawing. This one different. It's a mirror, cracked. Inside it, two reflections, you and a second version of you, one smiling, the other watching. She says, I had a dream you were two people, but only one of you loved me. You can't speak because she's not wrong. You sit with that truth and then decide. Let's go outside. She cheers. You grab your coat, your keys, your hand closes around something in your pocket. A photograph, the one from the bear. You hadn't realized you kept it. You hadn't realized you wanted to. Outside, the city feels alive in a way it hasn't in years. Not scripted, not looping, just unpredictable, messy, real. You and Clara walk toward the noise, toward the light, toward something that isn't memory or code. She skips ahead. You watch her, and this time, no dread curls behind your ribs. You whisper, you'll never be a story someone else tells, because that's the promise you've made now. No more simulations, no more authors, only life, and the strange, beautiful terror of it. Later, after she sleeps again, you sit alone in the kitchen. You don't write, you don't record, you just exist. And for the first time in what feels like decades, that's enough. The door is locked, the windows drawn, but the darkness, you don't fear it anymore, because darkness isn't where danger lives. It's where possibility does. And maybe, just maybe, you're not being watched anymore. You're just being remembered. Wind down. The night softens now, like a final rain. Questions remain. Was any of it real? Did you ever truly escape the loop? Or just trade one illusion for another? It doesn't matter. Because sometimes survival isn't about knowing everything. It's about choosing not to need to. So you sleep. Not because you're safe, but because you're tired of being afraid. And for the first time, that's okay. Outside, footsteps echo down the street, but they're not following you tonight. Not yet. Not this time.